Susan Davis. Thank you, Anne. Wow. I was thinking to myself, and we just talked about it, the fact that, thank God we don't have to dress like this all the time. But it's kind of fun, I like most of you. I've got this little outfit in my closet, and when I take it out and put it on, I'm always reminded of what we still are fighting for. And the reality is that it's not over. And we have to continue to do that. So thank you, Anne. Thank you for all of you, Judy, for all of you who continue every year to come out and to, on the one hand, to celebrate, and on the other hand, to be a real reminder that we've still got work to do, and we know that. Now, the other thing that is just so critical that I'm reminded of is that not just voting for women, but voter suppression today is at its height. I can't remember any time in our modern history and in looking at voting across the country, the fact that our forefathers gave states the right to do whatever they want around voting has caused this great problem that we're seeing today. I'm delighted that Texas courts turned back, their laws. So we hope that'll happen in other areas. But it's chilling that's going on. But here we are, 90 years, and we're still fighting, as you know. But I don't think any of us could have ever imagined that in 2012 we would be fighting the kind of extreme legislation that we've seen over the last 2 years. Can you believe it? It's just unbelievable. From redefining rape, they put in the law forcible rape, and that's we just saw the vice presidential candidate who's on that particular bill. Family planning funding, taking that away, and being very, very deliberate about taking away family planning funding. The Violence Against Women Act, every women's group, every civil rights group was fighting for this bill. And unfortunately, there were some people who felt that some women should not be protected in this country any longer. I hope we can come together on that as well. And, and finally, 2012, who would have believed that birth control would be an issue that women had to fight for? It really is unbelievable. When Sandra Fluck gained some notoriety for suggesting that a young woman should have a place on a panel to talk about women's reproductive futures, that somehow the men, decided, well, what would you do on the panel? Where do you fit? Isn't that unbelievable? So we know that that's an issue as well, and we certainly know that this whole issue of employers denying rights of women for reproductive rights also became a very big issue today. And finally, in the course of that discussion, we were able to change the tune on that and have a very different discussion. And so I'm glad that we were able to do that. But, I think about my colleague Todd Aiken's remark. Not surprised by that, but at least it raised the issue again for women. And the one part of this issue, and if you had a chance to see the Huffington Post, we had an op-ed in there because we have women in the military today who are not granted the rights. If they seek an abortion, they are not able to do that if they were raped or even in circumstances that we could hardly imagine that they would be placed in. Women in prison today have that ability. But if you're serving your country, if you're fighting for your country, we have not been able to get our colleagues to agree on that amendment to the defense bill. It really is unbelievable. So check out the Huffington Post because we have an op-ed in there as well. I'm always delighted. It's great to be here, but I honestly do feel today that I have never seen the kind of suppression as a former League of Women Voters president. That kind of an issue I would have never expected to come forward today as we look at what's happening and the fact that we have many, many people in the Congress today who consider voting suppression one of the highest priorities that they can deal with today. Not good. We need to fight it at every way we can, and I hope that I can count on you. Here in California, we don't see much of that, not to the degree that they see it in other states. I remember colleagues sharing with me that 27,000 absentee ballots were found after the 2000 election. Just sitting around. Nobody felt they had to count them. We're fortunate that in California that's not the case. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. The 6th year of this Suffragette Parade. Take care.
Let's give her a really round applause.
But really today I'm dressed as Charlotte Baker. Everybody know who Dr. Charlotte Baker was? An important woman in San Diego history. And today Ann Hoiberg and I went over to the Navy Exchange and did a little theatrical performance where I got to be Charlotte Baker at 7:30 in the morning. That's always fun. It's always great to learn the history. And Charlotte Baker was the head of the San Diego Suffrage Association that helped get the amendment passed in 1911 so California women could vote and be the 6th state in which California women could vote. It's so great to see everybody here, and my big news, of course, hopefully all of you know that the museum, after 30 years in 2 locations, has now relocated to a larger, more wonderful place in Liberty Station. We're in Barrack 16 over in Liberty Station, and we have an opening this Friday night. That's the 7th of September. We're going to have some music and some fun and some food and some silhouette cutting, and you can come and see our new space. It isn't all totally put together yet. There's a few unpacked boxes if you want to dig in, but we're starting to look like a museum and an office, so we're really, really excited to be over there because it's been a long time dream of the museum ever since I think Mary Maskell was around to move to a larger location where more people would be able to appreciate what the museum is doing and to invite other women's organizations into the museum to be a community partner and to create a community of women. So that's really one of the things we're working hard on in the next few years, so come on down.
How many years?
Never mind.
Never mind. She has been doing it forever. She's just received an award in Sacramento for her work on behalf of the lesbian, gay, transgender, and bisexual community. Please give a nice warm round of applause for Gloria. Woo!
Thank you. I want to first of all say greetings from now, and I don't think I really have to explain very much about now. You know who we are and what we are. But I do want to say that I'm very glad to be with you here this afternoon. And this is, as has been said, the 92nd anniversary of the Suffrage Amendment. You know, I think probably in a few weeks we'll be voting on the most important election we've had in many of these 92 years. We're voting on an election that could change everything in our lives that we've worked for. Joan Cassell is here, and we remember back in the 70s when we were all working for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, and hopefully that will still happen. And also I want to bring you greetings on behalf of the San Diego lesbian and gay, transgender and bisexual movement, and they're with us. They know how important women's rights are to their movement, to our movement, and they're there to fight for us all the way. Well, as I said, next month, or November, is Election Day, and this will be the day we can use our right to vote. But one thing scares me, and that's that some people will not be voting. 50 million women in the United States are not registered to vote. And of those who are registered, only about half of them will be voting. So I have a task for you. My friend Joanne here has voter registration forms. And this is called, I'm calling it Register a Friend to Vote. So if you have a cohort, if you have a friend, if you have a neighbor, if you have someone that might not be voted, ask them, are you registered to vote? This is so important. And then give them a form, sit there while they fill it out, make sure.
Good evening. This is very exciting. We come here
candidates
today to
very
celebrate the passage of the 19th Amendment. That was in 1920 that finally gave the women the vote in this country. It was a hard-fought battle, fought with the help of good, well-balanced thinking men.
Of the Pacific Southwest stands with you in celebrating Women's Equality Day and women's right to choose a candidate. This battle took 72 years to win. And I don't know about you, but I don't have that kind of patience. I want to see this war on women ended in November. The year 2012 has been surreal. In many ways, it's been wonderful. We've had some great victories. And in many ways, it has been a real education on what the world will look like if we allow anti-choice legislators to be elected. Now, let me start with the positive. We have with us today Congress member Susan Davis, and Bob Filner also supported the enactment of the Affordable Care Act, which means that as of August 1st, women have access to birth control through their insurance with no copay and with no cost sharing. This barrier to care will make a tremendous difference in the health outcomes of women in California and women across America. And I also want to acknowledge Senators Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein with women. In the state of California, just last week, we saw the legislature pass AB 2348. Now, this bill would allow registered nurses to dispense birth control. This makes such a difference to women in California in rural areas. About 50% of California counties do not have an abortion provider, but many of these rural counties do not have a doctor on hand who can dispense birth control. Registered nurses can do that. And we have, I want to thank Christine Kehoe and Senator Juan Vargas, who voted for that bill, as well as Assembly members Tony Atkins, Marty Block, Nathan Fletcher, and Ben Huso. Hueso, thank you. So that's the good news. Now, what does America look like when we allow anti-choice legislators to gain power? Well, we have seen that in 2012. We have seen our legislators nod their heads and say, yes, women who want birth control are sluts. Really? Really. And they said that women who want to prevent pregnancy should put an aspirin between their knees. No, he wasn't kidding. This was really his prescription for contraception. And then, of course, just last week, Todd Akin said that legitimate rape does not happen, or is very unlikely in the case of, legitimate rape does not result in pregnancy. A wild, weird theory that has been debunked by every legitimate member of the medical community. So that's what we're looking at, two